we're all quite familiar with these rules because they are largely the same as were in effect before the current lockdown, but only 3 remote corners of the country will escape the toughest rules. Those are Cornwall, the Isle of Wight and the Isles of Scilly. Everywhere else is either covered by Tier 2 regulations, which means no mixing of households indoors, so you can't have your friends or family around to visit. But pubs and restaurants can reopen again, only though if you're going to have a meal, you can't go there just to drink. And that covers areas like London and like Liverpool. Tier 3 are the very highest restrictions, and that means that hospitality venues have to remain closed for the start of December and the build up to Christmas, and that covers places like Manchester and much of the northeast and the northwest, and those are the same areas which are suffering those tough restrictions before this recent lockdown yet again. But non-essential shops, gyms, beauty services can reopen again, and there is the prospect of these rules changing within 2 weeks of them coming into effect. They're going to be reviewed every 2 weeks. And of course, don't forget, we all get a Christmas break from these rules for 5 days, so people can have something to look forward to, even if they're looking forward to it with a bit of trepidation and wondering if actually they're taking a risk by doing so.
Now, that break for 5 days will allow people to travel to different parts of the country, but it's only being used as guidance. Will people, do you think, follow this advice?
Gosh, Oliver, that's very hard to answer, isn't it? There is an argument, I suppose, at the heart of all this, that in having a Christmas break, you run the risk of having another outbreak of infections or causing more infections. But I think the argument in favour of a Christmas break is that people are going to do it anyway. And by regulating it to some degree and enforcing a 3-household bubble, well, at least it minimises whatever risk. You know, if people do follow that advice to travel over a 5-day period, yes, you can imagine there will be chaos on roads and on trains and in the air, and indeed the budget airline EasyJet has reported a 200% increase in demand for its flights over that period. But you're right to point out, this is guidance, it's not the law. Nobody's going to be penalised for not following it. And of course, the government would be hugely unpopular probably if it sought to do so. The police, for example, here in London have said they won't be knocking on people's doors to ensure that the guidance is actually being followed. I think the hope is that most people do at least follow the guidance and therefore minimise any damage which could be caused to the containment effort.